This is the American flag at the Beyonce Bowl covered in tarps. It's under construction. This is Kendrick Lamar performing in a construction outfit during his feature on America Has a Problem at the Renaissance World Tour in LA. This is the Reconstruction era. The period of time in America that was supposed to be about rebuilding, granting rights to formerly enslaved people and reshaping the country. However, it failed miserably. So it seems Beyonce and Kendrick are trying to reconstruct America. During the performance of America Has a Problem on the Renaissance World Tour, we see a ventriloquist puppet, Beyonce, behind her singing the words of the song. This is Kendrick Lamar performing with a ventriloquist dummy version of himself on the Big Steppers World Tour during his song United in Grief. What could Black Americans be united in grief about? The problems America has. And what are those problems rooted in? The failure of the Reconstruction era. The Reconstruction era failed Black people because, despite of the promises of freedom and equality, white supremacists quickly dismantled any progress made. Federal troops were withdrawn in 1877, allowing the South to enforce racist Jim Crow's laws, stripping Black citizens of their rights through voter suppression, redlining, segregation, and racial terror. The Reconstruction Act promised land redistribution, but that never happened, leaving many Black families trapped in poverty through sharecropping. The legal protections of the 14th and 15th Amendment were largely ignored, and white violence combined with government inaction ensured that true racial equality was delayed for nearly a century. These Jim Crow laws are the reason that Chitlin circuits had to come, because it wasn't safe for Black citizens to perform at venues, even though the Reconstruction era was supposed to make them equal after slavery was ended. The Reconstruction era is also closely tied to the 14th Amendment, because the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868, meaning it was going to guarantee citizenship, equal protection, and due process under law for formerly enslaved people. It was a response to the Black Codes, laws that Southern states put in place after slavery was abolished to keep Black Americans in a state of oppression. The 14th Amendment was supposed to be a game changer. It established birthright citizenship, meaning anyone born in the U.S. was automatically a citizen regardless of race. So this included these formerly enslaved people who were considered property. So creating the birthright citizenship was supposed to make them equal opportunity citizens. But that never happened. It also said that states could not take away people's rights without due process, and everyone had to be treated equally under the law. On paper, it should have protected Black Americans from discrimination, but it did not. The Reconstruction's promises did not match the reality in how they played out. White supremacists fought back and won, and they used loopholes like segregation and Jim Crow laws to continue these systems of oppression. Even through the 14th Amendment, it was supposed to guarantee equality, but it took nearly a century until the civil rights movement in the 60s for many of those rights to be enforced. In a way, the amendment became another ventriloquist act, a powerful message on paper, but behind the scenes the same forces that had always been in control were still pulling the strings. I can't help but think of Beyonce's lyric in Break My Soul, I'm building a new foundation, because the Reconstruction Act was supposed to create a new foundation for Black Americans, but it did not. It completely failed at it. So Beyonce and Kendrick's music are starting this movement that is going to be this new Reconstruction era. That's what I believe they're trying to usher in. Now, another thing that is interesting to note is that America Has a Problem is the 14th song on Renaissance, and United in Grief is the first song on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Remember, United in Grief is where we see Kendrick with a ventriloquist dummy. America Has a Problem is where you see her with the ventriloquist Beyonce behind her. 1/14, the original announcement date for whatever was supposed to be coming. Now, we've entered Black History Month. The Grammys are on 2/2, and then Kendrick's Super Bowl performance is on 2/9. Not to mention how the original teaser for 1/14/25 Beyonce was still on the football field, and the cover for America Has a Problem features newspapers that are on grass that looks like it's on a football field. Then we have Kendrick here on the football field. We got the Beyonce Bowl. We got Kendrick in his Super Bowl teaser looking like he's throwing the ball to Beyonce in the Beyonce Bowl teaser. We got football. We got grass. I'm spiraling out. You guys tell me to touch grass. I'm touching this grass. Additionally, someone pointed out in my last video on a comment that Cash App is owned by Jack Dorsey. If you don't know who he is, he was the original founder of Twitter. He also founded Square, the payment app. You know, where you ding on a Square thing to pay for something? He founded both of those. The guy's minted. And when I tell you the Carters fuck with Jack Dorsey hard, I mean, you can see him on boats with them. They got a little family outing. It's J, B, Blue, Rumi, Sir, and Jack Dorsey, I mean, they love this guy. He'd be seen on walks with them. He on boats with them. He hanging out with them all over the place. And most suspiciously, who's in the box at the Super Bowl with them last year in the box when Beyonce was acting all casual after she just dropped that Verizon commercial like it was ain't no thing, sitting right next to them when she's announcing Cowboy Carter. These guys love him. Matter of fact, another thing, Kendrick also loves Jack Dorsey, loves him down. Not only has he name-dropped him in a song, Hey Now,
I put a square on his back like I'm Jack Dorsey.
He put him in a video, Count Me Out, from Miss Around the Big Steppers. All I know is that Jack Dorsey rides hard for Kendrick. Kendrick put him in a music video. He's hanging out on yachts with Miss Blue Ivy Carter. He's involved somehow, because why was he in that box? I've already covered this in another video, but I believe that if Beyonce's going to be doing a Rodeo Chitlin circuit tour, residency, or festival, it will be sponsored by Cash App, because in her song Desert Eagle, she says Cash App to see the rodeo. She has many trademarks under the name Rodeo Chitlin Circuit. She says, welcome to Beyonce, Cowboy Carter Act 2 in the Rodeo Chitlin Circuit in Ya Ya. Then Kendrick, his last two tours were sponsored by Cash App. The pre-sale, the reason this is significant is because 60% of Cash App users are African Americans. So if Beyonce, like Kendrick, were to use Cash App for the pre-sale, she would be prioritizing African American fans. So it would really be a culturally significant move for Beyonce to do a Cash App pre-sale. Okay, America has a problem. Beyonce has this piece of merch where it looks like a viewfinder on her, like a target on her face that is a square, and it says problem. She is the problem. She has a target on her because she's calling out these things, and America has a problem. In Kendrick's song Hey Now, he has a lyric that says square on my back like I'm Jack Dorsey. Obviously, he's referencing that Jack Dorsey, the one who founded Cash App and Twitter, also founded Square, which I think is now called Block Inc. Anyways, that's the initial meaning of square on my back like I'm Jack Dorsey. However, there is a double entendre here, square on my back like a target, because he has a target on his back for calling out these things like Beyonce does, because the system does not like when you call out the system. So both of them have referenced a square on their back in different ways, and Cash App and Jack Dorsey, and you can't say these dots are not connecting. Also, in Kendrick's lyric on America Has a Problem, he says the double entendre, the encore remnants, the ops need 10 men. The only thematic connection between Act 1 Renaissance and Act 2 Cowboy Carter is the American flag on the single cover of America Has a Problem featuring Kendrick Lamar. But the flag isn't made of fabric, it's red, white, and blue pills. This brings me all back to the Mind Control interlude from the Renaissance World Tour. The song sampled in America Has a Problem is called Cocaine by Kilo Ali, a song that narrates the story of a cocaine addict who becomes a dealer, highlighting the destructive cycle of addiction and broader societal issues relating to drug abuse. It serves as a critique of systemic problems that lead individuals to the perilous world of narcotics, shedding light on personal and communal consequences of the cocaine epidemic. This is Beyonce's I'm That Girl video, which directly references the 1980s This Is Your Brain on Drugs campaign, with the egg cracking in a pan.
This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Many critics viewed the This Is Your Brain on Drugs campaign as hypocritical. This perspective stems from historical evidence suggesting that the government agencies and systemic practices played a significant role in the drug epidemic and even introduced the drug to their communities. Then, they try to make themselves seem like heroes by introducing this Drug-Free America campaign. Meanwhile, the government fails to address the root cause of drug addiction, such as poverty, unemployment, systemic racism, and instead focuses on punitive measures like the war on drugs. This disproportionately targets communities of color, leading to mass incarceration rather than rehabilitation or prevention. The war on drugs and campaigns like This Is Your Brain on Drugs directly fueled the growth of the U.S. prison industrial complex, leading to significant profits for private prison corporations and industries exploiting prison labor. Between 1980 and 2000, the U.S. prison population grew by a whopping 500%, with much of its growth driven by the drug-related arrests. Harsh sentencing laws such as mandatory minimums and three-strike rules disproportionately target Black and Latino communities, causing massive increase in incarceration rates. The privatization of prisons create a system where companies like CoreCivic and GEO Group profit from stricter gun laws, lobbying for policies that ensure more inmates. At the same time, prison labor, paid at extremely low wages, benefited corporations in various industries, drawing comparisons to modern slavery. These policies exacerbated systemic racism, with harsher penalties for crack cocaine associated with Black communities compared to the powder cocaine associated with wealthier white communities, despite their chemical similarities in the drug. Ultimately, the drug war prioritized incarceration over rehabilitation, diverting resources from social programs and creating systems designed to exploit marginalized communities for profit. The new crack epidemic is the opioid crisis in America. The opioid crisis, like the war on drugs, disproportionately affects marginalized communities, including Black Americans and especially young Black men, but the response has highlighted stark racial and systemic inequalities. While the crack epidemic of the 80s led to harsh sentencing laws, mass incarceration, and the criminalization of Black and Latino communities, the opioid crisis, originally perceived as affecting predominantly white rural and suburban populations, was framed as a public health emergency, receiving billions in funding for treatment and rehabilitation. However, as the crisis deepened, its impact on Black communities became more evident, with overdose rates among Black Americans rising sharply, often due to a lack of access of treatment and increased prevalence of fentanyl that is laced in the drug. This is also how Prince passed from an overdose on fentanyl, an accidental overdose, allegedly. I don't know. And it remains clear that addiction in white communities is met with compassion and support, while addiction in Black communities is met with criminalization and neglect. Furthermore, Big Pharma's role in aggressively marketing addictive opioids, like Oxy, exacerbate the crisis among all demographics. But the resources and narratives surrounding recovery consistently favors privileged communities. This highlights how race and systemic inequality continues to shape responses to addiction even when epidemic crosses racial and socioeconomic lines. In my Beyonce Matrix series, I go more in depth on the connection between opioids and mind control. Last couple things I want to mention around the themes of duality. We see on Cowboy Carter Act 2 that all of the titles with an I in it will have two eyes in it. Look at duality as not only something with two sides, but two meanings. We need to look at her art and her lyrics at having double meanings, especially on Cowboy Carter, but with all of her art. Kendrick Lamar is a Gemini, which is the sign of double meanings. In his verse on America Has a Problem, he says a double entendre. In this British Vogue story, she talks about being so grateful for her twins, Remy and Sir, growing in her blood for the first time, male and female energy able to coexist in peace and love, because there was so many strained male and female relationships in her bloodline. So she believes that's why she was blessed with twins. She also references her twins in the GQ article about the business of being Beyonce. That was part of her promotion for Sir Davis and Cowboy Carter Act 2, and her twins are Geminis. She was pregnant with Remy and Sir, where she performed daddy lessons and received the horrible racist backlash and was not welcome, and we know that's the thing that catalyzed her to make Cowboy Carter and show people that country music was founded by Black people. But the message of duality even goes deeper, because I've said before how Lemonade was such a healing journey for her of redemption, of finding her Southern roots. Then she goes to perform daddy lessons and the CMAs rejects her. So it's this struggle of duality of loving the South, loving her deep Southern roots and culture, when at the same time there is so much racism, hate, and hurt and horrible history in the South. So it's that dark side, the duality of the South, of loving and hating, even the duality of her relationships with Jay-Z is chronicled throughout Lemonade. It's this, how can you sit with both sides of the coin? Can you grapple with holding both light and the darkness? And that's why I believe Cowboy Carter is going to be a two-part album, because 2 + 2 is 4. We know that's her favorite number. But all of the outfits during the Beyonce Bowl were all white. But the primary colors we've seen her throughout all of Cowboy Carter have been white and black. White cowboy hat, black cowboy hat. And you know that a lot of people have said this is a double album. But I also want to touch on something else that has to do with love. Because love is about unity. And the thing that Beyonce wants to do is spread love. Let love heal the world. In the Texas Hold'em teaser, it says, Country Radio Texas, 100,000 watts of healing power. Love is best when it is shared with somebody else. So remember how all of her Ivy Park campaigns teased her upcoming music, most particularly the Ivy Park Rodeo campaign, which was so Cowboy Carter coded, and we know she started writing Cowboy Carter in 2019. So she was dropping Easter eggs throughout all of those Ivy Park ones, but nobody is talking about Ivy Heart, her collection of Heart Valentine's Day themed outfits. And Valentine's Day is about two people coming together. 1, 2. Again, that duality. Valentine's Day is on 2/14. if the original drop date was supposed to be 1/14, maybe something was going to then come on 2/14 a month later. We'll never know. But maybe, I just really think something is going to be on Valentine's Day. Especially because last Valentine's Day, she wished us Happy Valentine's Day on Instagram. And just a couple days before, she had announced Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages as the singles. And what is she wearing in Texas Hold'em, where in the teaser it says, the 100,000 watts of healing power radio? The Texas Hold'em outfit is her having a heart on her kitty cat, okay? This message of love and Ivy heart and Valentine's Day coming up, I don't think is a coincidence. I personally do believe that something will come on the Grammys. I know everyone says this all the time. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But I think she's gonna announce something just because of the symbolism of 2-2. And the Renaissance World Tour was announced on 2-1. And then this would be 2-2 announcing some other kind of tour or residency or whatever. We'll see. Who knows? But I think that her and Kendrick Lamar are gonna do something with the Super Bowl, some kind of collaboration. I don't know what it's going to be, whether she's going to appear there, but something's involved there, especially because Jack Dorsey was at the Super Bowl last year when she dropped Cowboy Carter, and Jack Dorsey loving Kendrick Lamar, and Kendrick Lamar's symbolism of duality, and he's a Gemini, and her twins are Geminis, and I think that they are trying to use their music to spread love through the world and have this Reconstruction Part 2 to heal the world through their art. And if you just look a little deeper, you will see there is so much double meaning. And even if the double meaning in the art that you get from it isn't what Beyonce intended, art is about your own subjective interpretation of it. And actually, it doesn't matter what the artist intended for their art. It's about how you interpret it. It doesn't matter if Beyonce says this song is about this. If you think it's about this, and something in your life, you're like, oh, this song is about this to me, that is what matters. And that is why I say analyzing these things is so important. And if you are in a quote-unquote Delulu hive, if you get joy out of analyzing art because it makes you inspired and excited about something, go do that. Don't let people knock you down by saying, go touch grass. You know what? They're just jealous that they can't let their mind wander and imagine. So I wish all of you the best in theorizing things. I really hope that we're going to be getting something at tomorrow. I think there's going to be an Ivy Park thing. I believe Kendrick and her are doing Reconstruction in America Part 2. I mean, it blew me away when I realized that he was wearing a construction outfit and she had the American flags under the construction tarps. It blew me out of the water. So I want to take this moment to ask you to subscribe and like and comment. It really helps support this channel. You guys I reached over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is crazy. So thank you so much for supporting. And it really, really helps boost the algorithm if you liked a video. If you're watching this on TikTok, liking, comment, and sharing, you guys are awesome on there. I love reading all of your comments and hearing your theories. So if you stay till the very, very end of this video, comment an American flag and a pill emoji and a horse. And I will talk to you guys soon again. I'm going to try to get one more video out before the Grammys. I'm not sure if I can pull it off because this-ish takes me a long time, but I wanted to get it out for you before the Grammys tomorrow. Anyways, that's all for now. With love, Lawbreakers.